Objection! You know, guys, Cadance hasn't had the best of reps. Ever since her introduction, her reception has been mixed amongst the fandom. Some see her as a one-note Mary Sue with no challenges to her character, while others praise her for her love and devotion overcoming all obstacles to protect her friends and family. Other stories and comics have attempted to address and rectify the situation to expand upon her character further, with mixed results. Which brings us to today's comic, The Rise of Cadance. Does this show the Crystal Princess in a new, endearing light? Let's take a look. We open with a monologue from Cadance as she contemplates her place in the world, glints of imposter syndrome making her doubt herself, but quickly finds renewed faith through her past accomplishments. Now, the series never really played too much around with her faults, as for the most part, we do kind of see her as the perfect pretty pink princess of love. This works fine as a mentorship role with her years of knowledge on love, but because the show wanted to maintain that particular visage of her, we never really got to see as much depth as we got from Twilight, Luna, or even Celestia. So on the one hoof, I do like how we're seeing this emotional distress, adding another dimension to her character. However, the way the dialogue just progresses through her emotions so quickly, from I don't know who I am to I am Princess Mi Amore Cadenza, doesn't feel very natural. And get used to me saying that a lot because the dialogue in this story is very stilted and awkward. We cut to Cadance's past, where a group of mares come across full Cadance sitting in a basket in the middle of nowhere. Clearly she's in her space pod that escaped her home planet's destruction. The ponies pontificate upon the abandoned foal's plight, remarking that even though the baby was placed in the middle of nowhere with no villages around, they essentially say it was their destiny that those three would just happen upon her. Okay, who upon coming across an abandoned baby talks like that? They would say, oh, what horrible parents would do this, or oh no, is the baby alright? Not, it was our destiny to enter this random field and find a baby.
There is logic in what he says.
Anyway, they quickly discover she's a Pegasus, and she immediately flies off, the one mare claiming that her flight pattern looks like a cadenza from a song. And yes, that is apparently how she's gonna get her name in this comic. Wow, that's a stretch. If I were naming her based on her flight pattern, I'd call her Zigzag, Lupin Louie, or Jerry. I don't know, makes about as much sense as their logic. We get a montage of her through the years in the village, quickly finding her place, and is pretty much praised by the whole town, bringing love to all she meets, and everything is coming up Cadance.
But that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Just kidding. Cadance notices that every pony in town has had all the happiness sucked out of them, to which the cause is revealed to be from a sorceress named Prismia. And if that name in this whole flashback sounds familiar, it's because this is an abridged retelling of Twilight Sparkle and the Crystal Heart Spell. In that story, Cadance is an abandoned foal who is found, brought back to the village. Prismia steals every pony's love, but is ultimately defeated by Cadance with the very magic that the sorceress stole, leading to her reformation. Same deal in the comic for the most part, however, some events are shifted. In the book, Cadance is almost immediately turned into an Alicorn and adopted under Princess Celestia's tutelage, whereas this story just has her earn her cutie mark after the reformation. The comic does admittedly expand upon this conflict a little more between Cadance and Prismia in this story, showing actual dialogue between the two, and though she's pretty much one-dimensional, at least the ensuing events gave her more of a reason to steal all the love, as Cadance's increase in love in the village was picked up by Prismia's necklace. Also, apparently, Cadance hasn't practiced any authentic love magic in her life, and yet, she could somehow sense that the love from the village somehow repelled Prismia's, aura? I don't know. Anyway, upon defeat, Celestia descends out of nowhere, ready to condemn the sorceress to Tartarus.
You go to hell! You go to hell and you die!
Now this is way out of line for Celestia. Okay, by this point she's already turned Discord to stone for bringing chaos to the world, and banishing her sister to the moon for threatening eternal night. Here she's ready to lock up Prismia and throw away the key just for stealing a single village's love without thinking of any alternatives that could benefit all. And it takes the young Cadance's word of reforming her to thwart the Sun Princess's punishment. Makes Cadance more interesting, but hurts Celestia's character. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, Celestia makes another executive decision and wants to whisk away the young Pegasus to Canterlot for private tutelage. Naturally, Cadance resists as she'll be leaving her friends and family, but ultimately responds with,
As you wish.
Again, this dialogue exchange doesn't feel natural, as the kid would either dodge the issue, attempt to bargain, or even just run away at such a claim of losing friends or anyone else that they care about. But she just inexplicably accepts her fate, sounding less like a kid and more like an adult, and not in a good, believable, mature way, and rather just sounds like forced dialogue. So you see Cadance enjoying her new home in Canterlot, improving her flight skills, and having fun teaching kids. I initially questioned why Celestia would put Cadance in magical classes with other unicorns, seeing as she's just a Pegasus, but it actually does make sense knowing that she will eventually become an Alicorn, and visually seeing how unicorns project magic will prepare her for the future. So while Cadance still questions a lot of the decisions made by Celestia, everything seems to be going great.
But that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Oh, I guess it really is this time. Wow. Okay, earlier the comic mentioned that Canterlot is always under threat from various creatures, but we just went from 0 to 100 in a single page. And this is where the writing goes absolutely bonkers. Let me ask you, if you suddenly looked out your window and you saw a dragon army descending towards you, what would your natural reaction be? Yeah, get the hell out of Dodge. But no, that's not what happens. Oh no. Without missing a beat, young teenage Cadance immediately darts off to directly combat an entire swarm of dragons all by herself.
Johnny, don't go. It's too dangerous.
I don't care. Come on, Caroline.
Off to meet my due mom. See you after school.
And it goes about as well as you'd expect, as the insane Pegasus is bashed out of the sky by a dragon, crashes into a tower window, and falls to her death.
And she's dead! The end!
No, of course Celestia saves her. Seriously though, what makes teenage Cadance look at this situation of invading dragons that clearly want to destroy the city and her and say, I got this?
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
And then, in probably the most bizarre dialogue delivery in this whole entire comic, after being saved by Celestia, Cadance says, lead me into this fight. What?
What?
There has been nothing that Celestia has taught Cadance or anything the girl has done to make her think that she can be Billy Badass, cowboy out, and stop an entire army of ferocious dragons.
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Celestia, of course, instructs her to take care of the foals, younglings. Yes, I'm serious. And this isn't just one occurrence, as throughout the story, foals are constantly referred to as younglings, which raises the prequel specter.
There are too many of them. What are we going to do?
While leading the foals away, Cadance runs into the dragon leader and senses her sadness by administering a wing boop. Apparently, shit went down a long time ago between ponies and dragons, which is extremely fascinating and paints equestrians in a very dark light, but it will never be followed up on, as in the span of 2 pages, Cadance develops a connection and the war is immediately off.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
Wow, that is a lot to buy, comic. And of course, Celestia dives in, ready to smote the dragon, almost inadvertently ready to reignite the war. Seriously, she needs to calm down. But Cadance once again talks her down, and thus she evolves into Alicorn, Princess of Love. Celestia finally reveals everything to Cadance about how her cutie mark confirms that she is a distant descendant of Princess Amore, who was the leader of the Crystal Empire long ago, and that Cadance's parents had abandoned her to hide her away from the world because they knew of her destiny.
I have several questions.
How? How do you know that? How did the parents know that? You've never met them. The only clue that gave Cadance away that she was of great importance was her cutie mark, which she only got after defeating Prismia. So how would the parents know of her future? For all we know, her parents were just a bunch of jerks who didn't want a kid and just left her in the middle of nowhere. We're almost done. Anyway, we once again put Celestia in a questionable light as she informs that she can no longer teach the foals and must fully concentrate on her magical studies. Oh yeah, that's the motherly and nurturing Celestia we all know. just like how she was with Twilight. You remember how after she and her friends defeated Nightmare Moon and Celestia said, "It's great that you made a bunch of friends, but now you have to concentrate solely on your magical studies and only see your friends occasionally." You guys remember that, right? I have no idea who this imposter princess is, but it's definitely not the Celestia we know. The only saving grace is that Cadance is allowed to full sit occasionally, which leads her to meeting Twilight. And the comic ends with the two creating their famous "Sunshine, Sunshine, Ladybugs Awake" chant. Alright, so that was the Rise of Cadance comic, and wow, what a mess. The dialogue is probably the biggest issue. Many conversations or declarations feel unnatural or just plain awkward. The lines Cadance spews out and the many actions she takes are insane or don't feel like something even a teenager would do or say. Celestia's depiction is no better and makes her a questionable ruler with the decisions she makes to ensure Cadance's future. And the interactions between Prismia and the Dragon Leader felt so short, he has no time to really leave an impression for Cadance's accomplishments. There are some good ideas in this comic, but they are executed so haphazardly that it doesn't paint Cadance or her backstory in a better light. Friends Forever number 30 addresses similar issues of Cadance's belonging amongst the other princesses, and while it isn't great, at least it's a much better comic in comparison. And the most disheartening thing here is the fact that this will quite literally be the last story about Cadance we'll ever see. And unfortunately, it leaves such a dark spot on her legacy. This was a rough one, but let me know what you guys thought about the comic in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe. Well, that's it for today, guys. Until next time, MC out!